Reynolds was a standout halfback for the football team at Florida State University. However, a severe knee injury ended his hopes of playing professional football, a circumstance that would ultimately change his course in life and lead him to pursue a career in acting. After a brief hiatus during junior college and several years of aimlessness as he searched for purpose, an instructor urged him to pursue the theater. That support turned into the catalyst that launched Burt Reynolds into stardom. His acting career did not start off well. Reynolds struggled in the 1950s, appearing in television series like Riverboat and Gunsmoke in tiny roles. He was a natural for westerns because of his deep voice and rough appearance. However, Hollywood took some time to recognize him as more than simply a pretty face. With roles in movies like Deliverance 1972, where he gave a raw, forceful performance that demonstrated his depth and passion as an actor. He had his breakthrough in the late 1960s and early 1970s. Reynolds was firmly established as a serious performer who could do more than just charm thanks to the film's critical and financial success. The heyday of Burt Reynolds' fame was in the 1970s with films like Hooper 1978, The Longest Yard 1974, and Smokesjokie and the Bandit 1977. He rose to prominence as the archetypal American cinema actor, representing rebellious self-assurance and amiable masculinity. His distinctive mustache, sinister smile, and self-assured swagger typified a time when movie heroes didn't take themselves too seriously, because he was genuine and approachable. Man who could make you laugh one minute and shatter your heart the next. Audiences adored him. Reynolds shone his ability to have dramatic depth in addition to his action and comedic roles. Deliverance is still regarded as one of his best performances, and he was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his subsequent comeback performance in Boogie Nights 1997. He played Jack Herr in Boogie Nights, a multifaceted adult film director whose blend of paternal love and faulty morality showcased Reynolds' nuanced, multi-layered acting prowess. For many, it was a turning point in their careers, evidence that a performer with genuine emotional depth was hidden beneath his rough, humorous persona. Reynolds' path was also characterized by financial difficulties and professional setbacks. He experienced health issues, bankruptcy, and box office setbacks in the 1980s and 1990s. But he persevered, coming back to the stage and screen time and time again with humility and humor. He kept performing well into his old years, frequently coaching up-and-coming artists and making appearances in indie movies that served as a reminder to viewers of his timeless appeal. Burt Reynolds' marriages were a reflection of the passionate, ardent, and even tumultuous temperament that characterized much of his private life, which was frequently as colorful and theatrical as the parts he played on screen. He had two marriages, one to television personality Lonnie Anderson at the height of his Hollywood success, and the other to actress Judy Carr during his early ascent to recognition. Each marriage symbolized a distinct period in his life and career. Despite their brief duration, Reynolds' emotional journey and public persona were profoundly impacted by both marriages. Judy Carr, an English actress best known for her humorous appearances on the comedy show Rowan and Martin's Laughing in the 1960s, was the subject of his first marriage, when Reynolds was still making a name for himself as a young, talented actor and Hollywood star. The two got married in 1963. Passion and a common goal were the foundation of their partnership. Both were appealing, vivacious entertainers attempting to rise to the top of the entertainment industry. However, the demands of show business and conflicting personalities harmed their marriage. In her memoir, Carr later wrote openly about the turbulence of their relationship, describing a mixture of emotional tension and affection that ultimately proved too much to bear. Reynolds would subsequently acknowledge that he had not yet grown up enough to manage the responsibilities of a lifetime commitment and that the marriage ended too soon. The pair separated in 1965 after just 2 years of dating, which was a small but significant period in Reynolds' early life. Reynolds reportedly had guilt for the way their marriage ended, later stating that he and Carr were just too young and focused on their careers to make it work. Burt Reynolds got married for the second time more than 20 years later. This time, it was with television personality and blonde beauty Lonnie Anderson, who was well known for playing Jennifer Marlowe on WKRP in Cincinnati. They were married in 1988, when Reynolds was at the height of her fame and one of Hollywood's most bankable leading men. Their union resembled a glitzy Hollywood fantasy. Two successful, attractive celebrities seemed to be a wonderful match, combining their lives together. As one of Hollywood's golden couples, they attracted the attention of both fans and the media with their well-reported wedding. But beyond the red carpet appearances and public smiles, the marriage was everything but happy. There were soon rumors of friction between Reynolds and Anderson, two strong-willed people with hectic schedules and demanding careers. The partnership was said to have been stressed by accusations of infidelity on both sides, career pressures, and financial difficulties. Early in the 1990s, the marriage started to falter, and in 1994, it ended in a contentious and widely reported divorce. Due to Reynolds and Anderson's candid and occasionally caustic remarks about one another in the media, the split garnered global attention. Reynolds subsequently acknowledged that the divorce was among the most emotionally and monetarily taxing times of his life. He charged that Anderson was more focused on fame and wealth than on love. Reynolds refuted Anderson's allegations that he had been harsh and disloyal. There were beautiful moments in their relationship despite the animosity, especially when it came to their mutual love for Quentin Anderson Reynolds, their adopted son. Even though the marriage didn't work out, both of them later regretted how bitter and public their breakup had been. Reynolds looked back on his marriage to Anderson in his later years with a mixture of sadness and longing, acknowledging that although it had cost him a great deal of anguish, he had truly loved her and wished things had gone differently. Fans of tough guy movies and vintage Hollywood westerns have been comparing and contrasting Burt Reynolds and Clint Walker, two of the most ruggedly attractive and endearing actors of their generation. For decades, both men were the epitome of the strong, muscular, stoic American man, the kind who could defeat a drunken brawl, tame a wild horse, and still have a heartwarming, beguiling smile. Despite the fact that their careers overlapped from the 1950s to the 1970s, Reynolds had hardly ever discussed his emotions for Walker in public. Up until now, there have been whispers and conjecture because of that quiet. Burt Reynolds finally talked about his relationship, rivalry, and affection for Clint Walker in a contemplative interview that was filmed towards the end of his life. His words vividly depicted two Hollywood legends who were molded by brilliance, guts, and an implicit admiration for one another. For individuals like myself, Clint Walker was already a legend in my early days. Reynolds started, I was still attempting to establish myself. Clint was also present. This man was a mountain with a voice that seemed to be native to the Rockies. Watching him on Cheyenne, I recall thinking, now that's what a cowboy should look like. Reynolds acknowledged that he was deeply impacted by watching Walker rule television in the 1950s. Clint was already one of Warner Brothers' top TV stars, while Burt was working hard at tiny parts and guest appearances. Every studio desired a piece of him because he was 6'6" and had a tank-like build. To be honest, I was a little envious of him at the time. Reynolds admitted he possessed the qualities that we all desired: dignity, power, and a quiet confidence that didn't require shouting. Reynolds' tone softened as he gave it more thought, displaying a profound regard that had developed over time. Clint had more than just charm and muscle. He was among the nicest men I've ever encountered in this line of work. Clint has maintained his dignity despite Hollywood's tendency to eat you up and then spit you out. He played the game differently than other players. I always respected the fact that he remained loyal to himself. Reynolds saw a shared independence in Walker, who was well known for his rebellious attitude and sporadic run-ins with Hollywood officials. Both of us possessed that stubbornness. We disliked having our actions dictated to us. However, Clint exuded calmness. Clint would simply face you in the eye and say what needed to be said, whereas I could lose my temper or make jokes to get out of a difficult situation. That is the silent type of strength. Reynolds laughed when asked if the two had ever thought about collaborating. The notion came up a couple of times. We joked about doing a western together. He remarked, I would be the snarky cop who gets into trouble, and he would be the straight-arrow hero. The time was never ideal, but it would have been a riot. While he was away doing another adventure photo, I was always taking pictures, similar to Smokey and the Bandit. Nevertheless, I believe that viewers would have enjoyed seeing us side by side. Burt also spoke to the long-running fan controversy on Hollywood's toughest man. People enjoy comparing. Reynolds smiled. Who would win in a fight? Burt Reynolds or Clint Walker? They would ask. I'll be honest with you though. Clint could have broken me like a twig if he had wanted to, but he chose not to. He wasn't like that. He didn't have to convince anyone of anything. His mere presence was enough. Reynolds continued by recalling the infrequent social encounters they had. Over the years, we had met a few times at charity functions, award presentations, and other occasions. He greeted me like an old friend each time I saw him. No rivalry, no ego, just sincere affection. Don't forget that in this line of work, he would inquire about my well-being and the state of my parents, and he meant it. Many people in Hollywood don't show that level of genuineness. In his parting thoughts, Reynolds talked not just as a fellow performer but also as a man, reflecting on the qualities that characterized an age of superstars. He stated gently that men like Clint Walker stood for something that is currently lacking. In addition to being a gentleman, he was a man's man. He didn't require headlines or scandals. He allowed his character and his work to do the talking. It's not common. I believe that we all aspire to be somewhat like Clint, strong, honorable, and unflappable. Reynolds gave a brief but sincere homage to wrap up his speech. Clint Walker was a unique individual. When he left us, the world lost a good man, and the film lost a real cowboy. Even though I only knew him briefly, I was proud to know him, and I prefer to imagine that he is riding high in the saddle, as he always did, assuming there is a heaven. In actuality, I admired him more than I ever expressed. Perhaps it's time for people to be aware that, on September 6, 2018, at the age of 82, Burt Reynolds passed away at Jupiter Medical Center in Jupiter, Florida, from a heart attack. With his charm, humor, and rugged good features, he had defined a generation of American masculinity. His passing signaled the end of an era in Hollywood, Those who were close to him mentioned in the weeks before his passing that he had been dealing with a number of health difficulties for years, including cardiac ailments that had required bypass surgery in 2010. Reynolds had maintained his optimism despite his deteriorating health, discussing future projects and his love of performing, which had remained unwavering despite his 60 years in the business. Fans worldwide, many of whom had grown up watching him in classics like Deliverance, Boogie Nights, and Smokey and the Bandit, were shocked when the heart attack happened. He died peacefully in the Florida village where he had lived for many years, a place he loved for its peace, sunshine, and seclusion from the hustle and bustle of Hollywood. Reynolds had asked for solitude in death, just as he had sought peace in his final years, and his burial arrangements were made with dignity and prudence. A private memorial service was planned by his ex-wife, actress Lonnie Anderson, and their adopted son Quinton Reynolds. Anderson set aside the past to make sure Reynolds had a farewell fit for his legacy, even though Burt and Lonnie's marriage had previously been turbulent. Despite the extensive tabloid coverage of their relationship in the 1980s and early 1990s, both had found mutual respect and serenity at the time of his passing. According to reports, Anderson preferred a small, personal, and meaningful wedding versus a lavish Hollywood spectacle in order to capture Reynolds' essence. On September 20, 2018, a private memorial service was held at a North Palm Beach, Florida funeral home. Close friends, relatives, and a few co-workers from his days working in cinema and television attended. Those in attendance praised the actor's generosity, his playful sense of humor, and his unwavering devotion to those who mattered to him. The gathering was quiet and full of laughter and emotions as they reminisced about the man whose contagious charm had lighted up the screen. Speaking softly about his father, Quinton, who had always led a private life away from the spotlight, we said that despite his notoriety, he was a kind, modest man who always made time for his family. According to reports, Anderson was extremely moved during the service, but steadfast in her determination to preserve the memory of the guy she had once loved.